Welcome into TNT Twincast. We appreciate you guys checking out one of our videos. Do us a solid, like, subscribe, and hit us with a comment down below. It's the best way for us to grow our channel. We appreciate you guys so much, and go Knowles. Welcome into TNT Twincast. This is the Garnet and Goal Line podcast. I'm Tori, and that's Thomas. And how are you tonight, buddy?
Doing awesome, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good, good, good. We're going to talk Florida State BC. We're going to review what a weird game this was. Florida State pulls out the win just in time, 31 to 29. Preliminary thoughts, man. If there was 5 more minutes in this game, we are talking about a loss, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Were it not for like the 18 penalties, we'd probably be talking about a loss too. So we have a lot. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And at the end of the game, we were definitely a little luckier than gooder.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, we got that face mask right at the end, kind of sealed the deal, and just glad to get out of Chestnut Hill with a road conference win. Big deal. We're going to go through some of the stats. Florida State finishes up with 340 total yards. BC with quite a bit more, which is scary, and we'll kind of get into that, with 457 total yards. We'll start with the running game. I just didn't think again. I feel like this is the third week that we've kind of had this dialogue. Once again, I feel that Florida State just couldn't get the running game going. They couldn't get the counter game, couldn't get a push at the point of attack, and I think it made things quite a bit harder in that first half. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to see the running back by committee, right? But you want to see one of those guys to take over, and kind of be that featured back. Um, it's nice to see Campbell and those guys out there making plays, but like, I just got to see Trey Benson make some more plays, hit some holes. You know,
I I have to be honest with you, man. I haven't really been all that impressed with Trey so far this year. Routinely hits the wrong holes. Doesn't really put his foot in the ground and try to make plays. Doesn't seem like he try to makes anybody miss. Can't really decide where to go with the ball. Just haven't really been all that pleased with how he's looked so far. As far as the running back room goes, I'd probably say that Rodney Hill has looked the best out of the three, and that's great as far as like where we project Rod Hill to go. But when you have Trey on this team, uh, that's just not how you expect that to go, and they need to really improve. Or it's going to be a long night against a really, really talented front that we'll be playing against next week.
yeah, and the quarterback too, Castellanos. He was
Mm.
making just like freak play after freak play. It was almost like the defensive line, especially on the edge, was like so scared of him like breaking contain, they would leave these huge seams up the middle. Or there'd be like a busted coverage, and he would fling it just in time to a wide open receiver. So going all the way back to their third down conversions, where it's like all these freak plays, it's like this incredible throw, or this really great run, or this terrible missed tackle. Third downs were extremely frustrating watching this game.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We will talk plenty about what BC did to rack up all that yards. Let's talk about what Florida State did at the wideout spot. I thought Johnny had a really great bounce back game. He didn't score, but he ended up with a lot of yards. I'm not exactly sure what his stat line was, but I can guarantee you that it was better than the USM game where he recorded zero. So yeah, he just it was really good to see him catch the ball. He consistently looked better.
That's a requirement. That's a requirement for being a great receiver is catching the ball.
USM, he had 5 drops, man. So it's like
Right. Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
get his confidence going early in the game, Johnny can be a really great player. And you
Here's
could
the stat
really
line.
see. Well,
The stat
you
line that you're looking for is four receptions for 105 yards.
yeah.
He was the best receiver, and it like wasn't even close. The next best receiver was Jaheim Bell.
Hmm.
After that, it was,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And, would I like the stat line of that unit to be a little bit more balanced? Um, sure, but it, it as long as you can have a player bounce back the way that he did, I think that's okay. And just got to see more from those guys. So some of the other
so did
guys in that room, Keon didn't really have a great game. Did not
no.
record. I don't think he recorded any stats. Had some procedural penalties. Just not a great game from him. My thought on that is like get those out of the way against a team like this. Like it kind of is what it is. They were parts in this
Right.
game where the offense was humming, uh, namely, 8 minutes into the third quarter when it was 31-10, and you really kind of looked like they were going to close the door on this game and go up 38-10, and then from there it's kind of a wrap. So I Keon and Johnny need to get these games out of the way against teams like BC and USM for me at least.
Yeah, definitely. You want to go into the Clemson game with all your weapons ready to go. And with the game being 31-29, if I'm Mike Novell, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like trying to get these guys pumped up for this game because you can't go into this game in a lull. It's in Death Valley, and it's at noon, and I really haven't figured out which that's better for,
Yeah.
you know, especially after last week. Florida State has some work to do recovering from the BC game,
Mm-hmm.
but I was thinking that, maybe Clemson would have a hard time getting pumped up for this game with it not being, at 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, is Florida State gonna have a hard time getting pumped up for this game?
Sure.
With it being at noon in Death Valley, in the sun for 4 straight hours.
Sure.
Um, but these guys gotta be ready to play because the past 2 weeks you've probably had 30 penalties go your way.
Mm-hmm.
And a Clemson is a pretty well coached football team, so you're probably not going to get that kind of grace, out of Clemson. So these boys better be ready to play.
Yeah, so as far as the tight end room goes, I kind of liked what you saw. Jaheim Bell continues to prove kind of that he's this strange centerpiece that Mike can really flex around the field. Physically, he looks great. I think we're going to see a lot more of what he can bring to the team. I like what they have out of Kyle Morlock. I think he has looked great. I think he's the type of tight end that Florida State hasn't had maybe since Ryan Izzo in 2016. That kind of tall, lanky guy, got good hands, runs pretty good
Big
routes.
body.
His ceiling is an NFL draft pick type stuff. It's really encouraging to see where he's at, and I really want to see more out of Marquiston Douglas as well. I think physically he's the kind of tool that Mike needs to use a little bit more in the running game. I've seen us run a ton, and I don't see him on the field, and I'm not really sure why. He's your blocking tight end. He needs to be on the field when you're when you're in running sets. But yeah, tight end. What are your thoughts on that group? Do you like how Mike has utilized those guys, and who's one that's kind of stuck out to you? These last three games.
Um, well, so I love Jaheim Bell. I love what he
Oh yeah,
brings to the tight end room, but I love what he brings to the offense. When he
I
first
agree.
came to Florida State, I was really worried that, when you go with that pick your poison kind of mentality, it's like there's a chance that some of these playmakers might not be able to get the ball. So the
Yeah,
fact that he is making plays is, I think, a credit to Mike Norvell and his play calling. So I really like what I see out of Jaheim Bell. I love Kyle Morlock. You're right about Marquise Douglas, though. I would
yeah,
like to see some more out of him. But really, I'm okay with it if it's Jaheim Bell making plays or Kyle Morlock making plays. That's fine. We don't have to go deep into this tight end room if the receivers are making plays. And Keon Coleman can't have one carry for 2 yards and no receptions. You know what I mean? When
yeah.
you look at the receiving stat line, if you take out Jaheim Bell, Johnny Wilson is like the only receiver that caught a pass. Yeah, because it's in the receiving. The stat line is Johnny Wilson, Jaheim Bell, Darian Williamson, Lawrence Toafili, Rodney Hill, Preston Daniels. Not a single one of those are receivers except Johnny Wilson. So you know, I'm all right with it if the tight end room can like just play, baseline ball. If the receivers will step up, and we're absolutely going to need that against Clemson. Like Jaheim Bell is great, but you know we need Keon Coleman and some of these receivers to really move on from this game, kind of throw the tape away, and be ready to play against Clemson.
Totally, totally, without a doubt. So, what's your take on the play we got from our quarterback in that game? Finished with 212 yards, two scores, zero picks, 16 to 24. I mean, I think that's a pretty good game. I mean, I think more times than not you would take that line. Um, there are some of those games like the LSU game where you really need that with 325, 340-yard game through the air. There are times when those games are needed, but I think for the most part he played a pretty good game. If you just remove stats out of it and you just look at kind of some of the decisions that he made throughout the game, I think then there's a little bit more dialogue to be had. But for the most part, I thought Jordan looked pretty good. There was the injury scare that we'll get into a little bit, but I thought Jordan looked pretty good. What was your read on the game?
So you read the stat line: 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. All of those weird funk plays, though, like sometimes that's kind of what happens when your leader is trying to force the ball down the field and make some plays, to
Yep.
either increase the lead or get us back in the game. So it was kind of like, your usual Travis when he's forcing, where he won't go out of bounds because he'll try to get a couple more yards, so
And
he'll,
get himself
kind of
killed.
right, right, or he'll like fling the ball down the field trying to force plays. The difference here is that he didn't cost us the game. Zero interceptions. You might want to see a couple more running yards from him, but um, I thought it was good. Like 31-29. BC's got all the momentum. I mean, at the end of the game, they're chanting overrated, and so you're lucky to get out of Chestnut Hill with a win. And so the fact that he didn't give away the game, I think is fine. Last year's team, maybe even last year's team, we lose this game,
Oh, it's an L
but
for
the
sure.
previous years, minus 2022, we are definitely losing this game.
Hmm.
So, the fact that his stat line was good and not great, and we won the football game. So great teams figure out how to win these kind of games. I mean, good God, Alabama scored 17 points against USF last week.
The,
Nobody looks like the best team in college football. So if we're gonna have where we're not as advertised, we're kind of in the same company with all those games too. I mean, Georgia kind of struggled, Alabama kind of struggled, so the fact that we came out with a W is fine with me. Let's go.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree with that. From an O line point of view, not too much to say. You had two starters out for the second game in a row. I thought for the most part they looked okay. You still only finished up with 128 on the ground. I brought it up before. Still couldn't really get a steady running game going. Couldn't get a great push. Pass pro at times was great. But run blocking just really continues to be a challenge for this team, and it's something they're really going to need to fix because um, we're going to need to run the ball. We're going to need to be balanced. Mike Norvell wants to have a balanced offense, and I think it's critically important that they figure out a way to get there. Counter game really hasn't clicked yet. Not really sure what's going on there, but yeah, I thought the O line was good. Probably like a B minus. They didn't look incredible. They didn't get a great push, but they did enough to win. They gave Jordan plenty of time, and I mean I thought they did a fine game. I didn't really have too much to say about that unit.
So no sacks, but you want to see them run the football. And,
Yes.
you know, I feel like I would trade a sack for like some more effective running,
Yeah, that's
So,
fair.
right? Like run blocking needs to get better because it's Boston College. I don't think Boston College has a fantastic defensive line, you know?
Hmm.
So kind of what I've been saying this whole time is like you got Clemson this week and they're going to be a lot more athletic. So He's got to move some bodies and get the running game going. We're desperate for that because you saw Jordan some passes because the running game's not going. And he's got to he's feeling like he's got to make some plays, and so we got to give him some space, get the running offensive line getting a push.
Right, right. Yep. So as a whole, I thought there were times when the offensive unit looked great. In the third quarter, they looked really good. It was was it 10-10 at the half, or was it 17-10? I can't remember.
It
I think it was 10-10.
17 it was 17 to 10 at half.
Okay. Um, they looked great. They blew out to a 31-10 lead. At that point, you kind of think the game's over, and then they just totally take their foot off the gas. A few freak plays there, but I thought the offense looked okay. But there for the third week in a row, really, there's still the same concerns that we have. Jordan needs to he needs to start to attack the center of the field. He's really getting obsessed with hitting the sideline routes. He's got to get away from that. He needs to start attacking the ball down the middle of the field. Um, so we're going to move on from the offense and
Yeah,
focus on.
there's something I wanted to say though
Sure, sure,
about
okay,
Travis.
sure.
To your point about those outside, sometimes I feel like he goes for like the really beautiful low percentage pass, and sometimes I wish he would go for like the high percentage drag routes or some stuff in the middle of the field. Use Johnny Wilson's big body to just get 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards.
Yeah.
Johnny Wilson doesn't need to be like a chunk play guy. You know what I mean?
There was a few times in this game where if he would have taken the shorter intermediate route, we would have converted third downs. I mean, I don't think we brought up the stat, but only 2 for 10 on third. That's not good. That's not going to cut it. And I believe this is the second week in a row where you haven't really been
Yeah.
great on third downs. You went for it once on fourth and got it, but just again, not a very clean game for Mike Norvell and that side of the ball. So we're going to move on to the defense really quick. We're going to fire through these. D line, I didn't think looked great. They routinely got blown off the ball. There was a few times when Josh Farmer just really didn't penetrate, didn't stick his ground, got moved right off the ball. Not great for what this unit was advertised to us throughout camp. Just not really impressed with him. I mean, they looked great against LSU. They looked incredible, and since then they've just kind of looked okay. So yeah,
This was probably the most disappointing position group for me. That or the DBs for the
yeah.
whole game because you
We'll
really
talk about the DBs.
you kind of let Castellanos kind of run all over you, or throw the ball to wide open receivers. So, 29 points. I think defense was a big problem in this game. All the big chunk plays, all the third down conversions, especially the third down conversions, it all kind of had the same theme of like, what is going on with the D line? There's zero penetration, zero pressure. Castellanos, he's probably going to be a really great quarterback, but he might not be one right now. But
Mm.
we made him look really good. I just didn't see, just like you said about Farmer, like I didn't see the penetration that I wanted to see. It was like they were so concerned with keeping him inside that they left the middle between the hashes like wide open every time. Whether it was like running lane or a blown coverage. Super frustrating, especially those. I'm still reeling over those third downs. The stat line is 8 for 19, but it felt so much worse than that. Honestly,
Third and Fuller, not good. Third and 17 that they had. You get that stop, you get the ball, chance to put the game away. That was when it was 31-16. You score there, get any points, and the game's over. And just give up a third and 17 on that side of the field. Just really, really bad. Our third down defense really has to improve, and I hope Mike gets his guys ready because they're gonna play a team that's really explosive. We've seen the last 2 weeks.
yeah.
So
One more thing I wanted
linebackers.
to say about the defensive. One more thing I wanted to say about the defensive line, and this also has to do with the backers as well. Um, So even though Castellanos did bust a bunch of plays, I mean he was 16 carries for 95 yards. The next guy was uh Kai Robichaux, I think is how they said
Robichaux,
it.
yeah, he looked good.
21 carries, 21 carries, 64 yards. So he only averaged 3 yards a carry. He did have a touchdown, but he only averaged 3 yards a carry. So if I have to give any credit to the defensive line or anybody in the interior, it was at least you weren't allowing like the designed running plays, like not the quarterback designed running plays. Like the snap it and handoff. Defensive
Sure,
line was doing a good job of kind of containing him because 3 yards, that's not a great average.
sure, sure. Yeah. So
But anyway, that was
the
just my point about the defensive line. Sorry.
right, right. So the line back a core unit, I thought for the most part again looked okay. There was a few times where we got picked on, in the center of the field. A few times where I isolated a few of their skill guys on some of our guys. Didn't really show up on the play. I thought that unit was okay. I thought Bethune is. I hope he's not hurt again. He wasn't brought up in Mike Norvell's press conference today. Jordan was. He pretty much made it appear that Jordan is fine and will be playing
Yeah,
in
I read
the
that.
Clemson game, which is exciting. Um, so I thought that unit was all right. Now the DBs are where I have a huge concern. Um, Kevin Knowles, this doesn't sound very nice. He cannot play safety. Watch number 3 in this game. He had a very bad night, and I'm sure that he's reeling from it. But man, he just did not look great. Um, got beat in coverage quite a few times. That corner blitz there at the beginning of the game totally whiffs. You make that play, all of a sudden it's 3rd and 18 in the first drive, and it would totally change the way this game
Was
goes.
that like the was that like the 44-yard catch to like open the game?
That's correct. Yeah,
Oh,
he had
yeah.
him. He had him dead, and he just didn't make the play. And that's something we got to have. And we got a few young guys who play safety who I'm very excited about, and I think could make plays and could kind of solidify that unit a little bit. But not a great day for the DBs for sure. Probably 4 or 5 busts. Just way too many times. You brought it up. Way too many times. The middle of the field was just there, and
Yeah, I mean,
Clemson is gonna
you
is
know,
gonna attack the middle of the field over and over and over again, thanks to the results in this game, and that is not good for Florida State.
yeah, Castellanos was literally Mr. Everything for Boston College. Again, 16 carries, 95 yards, but then you turn in a 20 catches, 33 attempts, 305, a touchdown, and one interception, but like he threw for 300 yards against this team. What was the 457 yards? Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Definitely not. So the defensive unit, I thought, routinely got put in bad spots because of like freak plays, like the pooch punt or the pooch kick that BC tried and got. The defensive unit was just on the field, and they had to come right back out, and that was a great strategy for BC, and it paid off for them, and it kept them in the game for sure. So now that we've pretty much gone through each unit, we'll talk kind of macro on what that game means. For me, it's one thing. The game was 31-10. Florida State scores there, it's over, and they just couldn't do it. And I think this team's got to learn how to use their boot. They've got to learn how to put bad teams away, not let them hang around. You're going to play a lot of teams where their thought is this game could make our entire year, like BC, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Like there's going to be a lot of these games where Florida State should really be able to get the ball rolling and win by 21, 24, 28. And if they don't learn how to put a boot on a team and just really get it done, I think they're gonna experience some challenges for sure.
Well, I'm having some flashbacks of the 2014 year where we just could never put anybody away.
Totally, totally. Um, but yeah, they Florida State gets the win, 31-29. Got out of there with a win. Like I said, if there was 5 more minutes on the clock in this game, I think it's an L. So what we're going to look at some of the opponents that Florida State is going to play this year. The game that we've picked is the Tennessee UF game. I watched the first half here, and I thought Florida looked pretty good. I think there might be issues with Tennessee for sure, but UF got it done. They had them at home. They made Tennessee look pretty bad.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I watched this entire game, and I remember at the very beginning, like Tennessee gets the ball, they do pretty well. Florida gets the ball, they're like running the ball, and Graham Hurts is like pump faking and freezing the DB so that he can run by him for a first down. Like Florida had some swagger in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty impressed, because I thought Tennessee was gonna be definitely my like number two SEC East team. But after that game, I'm not sure. And you know, with Florida playing well, that could be a really exciting game at the end of the year, especially if this turns out to be a pretty good Florida team.
Yeah, you could end up seeing a ranked Miami and Florida, which would be great. To be honest with you, I think that'd be really exciting. You got to go to the swamp. So if they are ranked and heading towards a great year, that could be really exciting. Thankfully, you get Miami at home this year. I think that team has looked better than a lot of people thought they would. TVD looks to kind of be his old self, which is good for them, bad for us. But either way, it should be a really good game. But yeah, Florida. I mean, I was concerned offensively what they could do. They've got really young wideouts. Pearsall's back. Running back wise, they're solid. O line, I was really concerned because they had lost so many guys in the portal, and some of the guys that they got in the portal are already gone. So that was a concern for me. But that team looks when they can attack the opposing team from a balanced point of view, they really seem to really click. And as long as they can get that running game going, they have the chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to what you were talking about with the schedule, if Florida can win a couple football games, there's a chance that this atmosphere at Ben Hill Griffin can be electric. You know,
Yeah,
lean on just a little bit of that SEC bias to find yourself in like the top 12 or top 10, like quick. You know, so there's a chance that, and let's not forget this. I know this is like a crazy pivot, but you were talking about ACC games on the schedule. Let's not forget about Duke because they destroyed Northwestern last week, and Riley Leonard is probably the third best quarterback in the ACC. So like and that game's in Doak, so that could be a really good football game too.
definitely.
Uh, it was funny when we originally looked at the schedule; it was all about September, but now it's looking like even after September, there's still all these other games that like are going to be, obviously they're must wins for us to do what we want to do this year, but it's going to be a lot tighter and more competitive than maybe we thought. And who knows, maybe we'll get game day in Tallahassee if Miami, wins a bunch of games by the time they play us.
That would be exciting. So like I said, I watched the first half of the Tennessee UF game. The halftime score was 26-7. When I looked at the final score, 29-16. What was the story in quarters 3 and 4? Florida only put up 3 points. Tennessee, put up a little bit more, but couldn't really. Could they not get the ball rolling on the offensive side of the ball for Tennessee? Was Florida playing really good deep defense? I didn't watch quarters 3 and 4. What's the story?
It was kind of just like they were just sort of trading blows, The offense kind of started to sputter a little bit for Florida. And, Joe Milton's, he's a good quarterback. He can make some plays, So you're not going to be able to completely stop him. So he would get his, and that's how they were getting points later on in the game. But the defense really stepped up when they absolutely had to. There was a few minutes in this game, where you thought maybe where Tennessee was going to claw their way back in this game, but the Florida defense kind of stepped up and was able to stop him. But that atmosphere though, man, Tennessee is a cool place to play.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, Yeah, so that's pretty much all I got. Thomas, do you have anything on your notes that you want to get to tonight before we close out tonight's show?
No, not really. We kind of talked about it. Oh, I'm just gonna kind of like shoot from the hip here. On my notes, I've got best team in the country with with a question mark because I don't think I think maybe the most consistent team in college football right now, 3 weeks in. Go Horns.
Okay, so um, I would agree with that if they didn't have 10 points against Wyoming. So, hot take,
Okay, that's fair.
hot take. It's Notre Dame, and I think we're going to see that on Saturday. Notre Dame plays Ohio State. I think that we should all be concerned. Notre Dame hasn't had a quarterback in a long, long time. They've had a really talented team, but just haven't had the quarterback to kind of get them to that next floor. And I think they have that now. And I think that Notre Dame is probably a playoff team. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams. I'm not. I would be. I would be surprised if they didn't beat Ohio State on Saturday. I think that
Who do they? Wow, Notre Dame has a pretty tough schedule this year. They got
they always do.
Ohio State, USC, Duke, Clemson. Clemson's not ranked. That's crazy.
I know, isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
It's kind of a trap
Wow.
scenario for Florida State, though, if I'm being honest. But anyway, dude, Notre Dame, I'm all in. I think the quarterback has finally kind of fit in and fixed a lot of the challenges that Notre Dame has had. I love their coach. I think he's great. The recruiting's gone well for him. I just think that they're a team that they're going to get really good quarterback play now, and I'm not sure that they've had that in quite some time. They haven't had a quarterback to really put up the stats to really win these huge games, and I think that they have that guy now. But anyway, cool.
I don't.
Well,
I'm not done yet. I still got some things I want to say.
oh, okay, keep
Um,
going.
so with Notre Dame, they play USC and they play Ohio State. So
Yep.
I think that they're going to go 1-1, and that will kind of maybe take them a little bit out of the conversation. I think that'll be USC's big opportunity to like be taken a little more seriously. Um, but I was going to bring up just a little thing about Colorado. I don't know if you watched that game, but that Colorado State game was crazy.
Uh,
But these next two
yeah.
weeks for Colorado, what's up?
I was just gonna say I watched that game all the way up to the end of the third quarter, and then I had to go to sleep.
I fell asleep on the couch when it was like 26-14 or something. Colorado State was up, and I thought they were just going to kind of ride it. And I fell asleep on the couch, and then I woke up in the middle of overtime. But
Wow.
anyway, what I was going to say is for Colorado, all this momentum, they have Oregon this week, and then they have USC next week. So, if this Colorado team is legit, I think they go 1-1 in these next 2 weeks.
Well,
Oregon's only, I think they were ranked 20 maybe, but I think they're a lot better than Colorado, in my opinion.
so I sent a buddy of mine a text about Colorado, and 6 of their next 9 games are against ranked teams. So
Right.
we'll know what we have out of Colorado here soon because they're gonna. I have concerns if they play a team that has a pulse as far as scoring points because they haven't really played. I mean, Nebraska, no. Colorado State, no. TCU's looked okay. I mean, they've certainly scored a lot of points, but I think throughout the year we'll learn more about that team and how that Colorado win wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, they're certainly going to get tested here in the next 9 weeks. 6 of those games being against ranked teams. So that is going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you for joining us. You guys have a great night and go Knowles.